one of the larger wolves made an aggressive charge towards Sable. She readied her dagger, understanding that it was useless. As the wolf closed the distance, she sent a silent prayer into the night. At that moment, time slowed, and her vision blurred. She began to remember moments from her childhood that she hadn't really thought of in years. Moments she didn't know she held on to. Her father showing her how to swing a sword. Her mother baking fresh bread and waving from the cabin window. As she rolled around in the grass, battling against 100 unseen, imaginary dragons. She almost felt herself begin to smile. As time began to speed back up, she could almost feel the wolf's hot, putrid breath on her face. When all of a sudden, there was a loud thump that shook the ground and a sharp cracking sound. She allowed her eyes to focus so she could actually see what was going on. Zayn gazed down at the wolf he was using as a step stool, his boots clearly punctured through the midsection. The wolf, boasting an impressive regeneration ability, struggled and squirmed to free itself so that its wounds could heal. Zayn reached down one of his large hands to grab the back of the wolf's neck. Watching, stunned, Sable realized just how big the stranger's hands actually were. Seeing him in comparison to these large wolves made them almost look like angsty teenagers next to a well-grown man. He stepped out of the wolf's guts as he picked it up by the back of the throat and held him up as if to display him to his pack. I wanted peace. I asked for the fighting to stop. Out of sheer defiance or bloodlust, you refused. And now, you shall bear witness to the tragedy that is your undoing. His words cut through the night, his voice so powerful and vicious that even the wildlife went quiet. Not even the crickets could be heard. They knew there was a strong predator lurking in these woods, and it wasn't the wolves. Luckily for Sable, she was newly acquainted with this predator. He squeezed the back of the wolf's neck, and she watched as the head exploded from atop its shoulders. She could hear Gron vomiting to her left. The pack of wolves were not happy, and they let out terrifying growls that ripped through the night. Well, I guess now is as good a time as any to test my abilities, Zayn muttered as he turned his right hand palm up and began to illuminate. Small sparks started to form in the air as if fireflies were attracted to the glowing palm. The sparks grew and began to swirl as they took shape. First, they formed what looked like a spear. Zayn made a hum of approval. As the rest of the pack began to make their way out of the tree line and rush towards the stranger, he maneuvered the spear with expert precision, spinning the spear behind his back, switching hands without stopping. He then spun it back to the front and stepped forward with a sharp thrust, catching one of the wolves on the blade's sharp tip. Before the wolf could even respond to the pain, he hoisted the spear into the air vertically and then slammed the butt into the ground, causing the wolf to slowly slide down its shaft. As it did, the spear began to glow again, and the wolf roared in pain as its flesh began to sizzle and burn. By the time the wolf slid down the completion of the shaft, it was just a pile of ashes on the ground. Zayn grabbed the spear, yanking it up out of the ashes from the ground and twirling it in one hand as it continued to glow. Two more wolves rushed in, one cut sharp to the left towards Grond, the other made a swift dash towards the stranger. He stepped forward through smoke and shadow, as if the very night itself blanketed him, and he slammed his fist into the wolf's head, breaking the neck instantly. There was a loud crunch as the wolf whimpered and then hit the ground, lifeless. As it dropped, he used the same move to shadow step towards Grond, the spear reforming as a shield and breaking the body of the second wolf as it crashed into the surface. He raised it and slammed the edge down on the second wolf's neck, decapitating it fully. There was a sharp stillness in the air, a vacancy of sound that seemed so loud. The crackle and fire blazed in the small camp, the heavy breaths of the injured warriors on the breeze. Zayn looked at the wolves and realized their carcasses were melting down into black goo. He looked up at Grond. "Are you okay?" "No, but I will be thanks to you. Those were not wolves, I can guarantee that. Do not feel ashamed of what happened here. You were not up against Brothers of the Moon. This was something else. I know it's a bit soon, but I will help you gather your fallen comrade, and we will bury him, or whatever death rituals you honor. But I would like to get back to the tavern to regroup. I have a proposition for you. I also have some information about what's actually going on here." As he finished his words, he reached his hand out to Sable to help her up. She stared at him for a long moment, not taking his hand, and in her eyes, he could see questions, regret. She needed answers. As he was about to pull his hand out, she reached forward and grabbed it. "We'll consider it over a drink. You're buying," she said, with a wicked little smile. Zayn knew it was a front. He knew that inside, she was afraid and she was hurting. He gave her a sad smile back as he said, "Welcome to the fight." Oh yeah, thanks for stopping by. This is part of a larger world that I'm building, a larger fantasy world. So I'm really excited about this, and I hope you guys like this video. I hope you subscribe, and I hope you tap the bell so you can get all notifications and join me on this new journey. Just make sure you leave a light on.